What's up, guys? So today we're going to talk about tweeters, and I'm going to start this off by talking about positioning for tweeters. Now, there's a few schools of thought on that, and I'll cover what I can tell you, what I know. First basic school of thought is the tweeter needs to be in an area where it's not going to be blocked or impeded by any interior panels or any obstructions like your body, for example, which is why you find often tweeters mounted in the sail panels or up high on the doors, the A-pillars. It's not necessarily because being high is good, it's because being unimpeded is good. However, going in the kick panels, if they're positioned in such a way that both tweeters are able to get to your ears without any major obstructions, that will work. Having said that, it does, at least to me and to my ears, help to have the tweeters in a higher position because you get an overall better spacious feel. But just remember, and they have to be open. Also, whenever you're picking out tweeters, got to make sure that the tweeter is capable of playing the frequency range you need to fill. So if your highest mid cuts off at like 3,000 hertz, the tweeter needs to be able to play down to 3,000 hertz, and then you got to consider the slope as well, so you get that crossover point right. You don't want to create a gap in your overall frequency range. Now we can talk about the diaphragm types, which is also a thing. Mounting a tweeter to where it's firing at like mostly at a really hard surface like glass or hard plastic even, can give you characteristics. So if you're looking for something that you're not getting, try facing the tweeters away from you up against something like that they'll bounce off of. You might get the characteristic you're looking for by doing that. Cone tweeters, semi-dome tweeters, and dome tweeters. That's the three most popular categories for speaker types, the tweeter types. The dome tweeter and semi-dome and also inverted dome tweeters have a much wider spray and much more even dispersion of sound. So even if they're sitting quite a bit off axis to you, you're still going to get the sound is still going to get to you without having to be reflected off of something else to get there. Having said that, another mounting option, of course, is to mount your tweeters to where they are literally intentionally bouncing off a very solid piece of a gear, like a windshield or a glass or side glass, hard plastic, bouncing off of something before they get to you. Sometimes that reflected sound can fix your problem, so you have to experiment with that. But yeah, dome tweeters is what's up. Dome and inverted dome does the things that you're usually looking for. Tweeter types are the material that they're made from, the plastic, polymers and that sort of stuff, PET and all that. That's one category, and then you have the textile, which is like silk and fabrics and carbon fiber, I suppose, would even probably fall in that category. Silk blends. And then you have metals, aluminum, beryllium, titanium, those guys. And we'll start out with the plastics, polymers and PETs. You'll find those quite a bit and less expensive. Those materials less expensive stuff, and they're used in car audio primarily for a couple of reasons. One, they tend to be really good at handling the conditions because they're made from, a petroleum product usually, or something that's derived from a petroleum product. It makes them tough. They can handle the weather and the humidity and all that. They're also usually very inexpensive to produce those. So those two characteristics are good. The problem is they also tend to be very thin and not stiff. And those are two things that we in the audio driver world, not stiff is a very bad thing. So you may be able to get good sound out of them. They may give you great sound at low volumes, but they're going to start coming apart as the volume goes up. They're going to lose their structure and get messy. So then we're on to silk and different combinations of silk with other materials mixed in. Be very, very rigid. And there's I'll get to that in a second. They'll be very rigid, and they have good sound reproduction. And a silk dome tweeter with extra elements added to it to make it super, super rigid can be very good sounding and handle power quite well. And so a lot of they're very popular, and they're a solid choice for car audio. The last category is the metals, and of course aluminum, titanium. There's a bunch of them. They all serve the same purpose. In the world of audio, having the driver be as rigid as possible is always the choice. We've had mids and woofers that were made out of aluminum in the past. They didn't work as well, but the reason they went after that idea was because it's really rigid and it's light. And rigid and light are great. That's what we want. We want less moving mass and as much stiffness as possible in all drivers. And everybody's working towards that, right? Well, no different in tweeters. The difference in tweeters is you're working with very, very, very small amounts of things. So you can get a lot more experimental in there. And having said that, the metal drivers are going to tend to be more linear in their sound reproduction. They're going to tend to stay extremely linear. They're still going to get deflection when they're playing, but it's going to be minimalized a lot. And they're also, when it does deflect, it's usually up above 20,000 hertz. You usually get your weird quirks well above your hearing range, so it's not really an issue. And they handle power extremely well. The metal drivers, since the diaphragm of that driver is directly connected to the voice coil, and it's made out of metal, and it's moving air, it's a perfect heat sink to pull heat away from that voice coil. So they're by design, by default, going to handle power better. And of course, also the fact that the driver is less likely to break up during higher volume playing means it's going to do that too. Horns and waveguides. So a lot of times today, like with the tweeters I have in my A-pillars, you'll have a horn, maybe small, big, may have a bullet in the middle. Yeah. Horns and waveguides are, they work exactly like you think they do. Your hands up here, it makes more loud noises than it does here, okay? And it isn't that my voice is any louder, it's that I am taking away the energy that's getting put back here and isolating it to just this area, so that all the sound that would be getting lost off in here is getting projected in it where I want it to go. That's exactly what a horn and a waveguide does. It helps to put the sound where you want it rather than just letting it go wherever it wants. And remember how I was talking about how the tweeter, the dome tweeter, being, even when it's off axis to you, it's still able to get to your ear. Well, it's also able to go everywhere else too. And if it's bouncing off of stuff before the sound gets to you, in a way that you're not controlling, you can wind up with a very scattered, soft sound, because that you're hearing all those highs that are just bouncing all over the place and finally getting to your ears. You're only hearing a little bit of it that's coming straight at your ear. With a waveguide, you've now eliminated a whole lot of that lost, scattered sound, and more of the original sound is getting to your ear before the other reflected sounds are. So overall, it's going to sound better and have more life to it. You know, it's going to be louder at lower volumes. Having said that, if it depends on your positioning, what you're trying to do with the speaker. Is it firing at you? If so, then a horn is not bad, and a horn can be as much as as small as a little tiny bump around the tweeter, or a little tiny thing that looks like it doesn't do anything. Trust me, it does a lot. So those horns and waveguides, in the right situation, in the right installation, will dramatically improve everything. In the wrong installation, they can completely destroy everything. So if you're mounting, if your tweeter's going to be way off axis to you, using a horn drive or a waveguide is probably not going to be the best option. If the tweeter is going to be, facing more at you, and you can look in the horn and see down in the horn pretty good, then it's a pretty good chance it's going to work. It's just this is options. These are options. It's good times all around, guys.